Hi students, welcome to Easy Elimu Learning Simplified. My name is Mbithe, and in this session we are going to continue looking at the different types of sentences. In the previous session we have looked at interrogative sentences, and in this session we are going to look at the remaining three types, that is the declarative sentences, imperative sentences, and exclamative sentences. We are going to define all of them. We are also going to identify which punctuation mark is used for which type of sentence, and we are also going to construct a few sentences in these different categories. Before we proceed, let us remind ourselves, what is a sentence? If I asked you, what is a sentence? What would you say? A sentence is a group of words that make complete sense. So if you put words together and they make sense, that is a sentence. A sentence always starts with a capital letter and ends with either a full stop, a question mark, or a comma. A question starts with a capital letter, ends with a full stop, a question mark, or an exclamation mark. For example, I am going to school. That is a sentence. Where are you going? That is also a sentence, but it is a question, so we end with a question mark. So remember, in the previous session we said that interrogative sentences are sentences that ask questions, and so they end with a question mark. So let us now go to declarative sentences. Just from the word declare, could you have an idea of what declarative sentences are? So these are sentences that help us make statements. When you want to declare something, you want to make a statement, we say that that is a declarative sentence, and they are the most commonly used types of sentences. So for example, like that previous example that I gave, I am going to school. That is a statement, that is a declarative sentence. When you say, I am hungry, I am going to sleep, she is going to the library, all those are declarative sentences. It's just a sentence, a statement. So there are more examples there. I am going home. I like reading. She is not going to the market. When you look at these sentences, you realize that they all start with a capital letter and they all end with a full stop. Remember that this is a statement. It is not a question. So it will not end with a question mark. It is not something that is expressing any form of emotion. So it will not end with an exclamation mark. It is just a statement. So it ends with a full stop. Remember, anytime you're writing, to always punctuate your work and punctuate your work with the correct punctuation mark. So that's it for declarative sentences. I hope you have understood. Let us now proceed to imperative sentences. So these are sentences that help us, that are used when we are making requests, we are giving advice, we are giving commands or instructions. And one very interesting feature about these types of sentences is that they begin with a verb and they end with either a full stop or an exclamation mark, depending on the intensity of what it is that they are passing. Because if it is a command, it is going to end with an exclamation mark. If it is advice or a request, it's going to end in a full stop. And we're going to look at a few examples in the next slide. So imagine a situation where you're walking, maybe it's at night, in a dark place, and then you see a car approaching you from behind that is speeding, and then whoever is driving the car shouts to you and tells you, run for your life. Is that a statement? Is that a command? Is that a question? Is that an advice? And so that is an example of, you can call that advice, you can call it command if you want. So when someone just randomly shouts at you, run for your life, when you write down that, you're going to put an exclamation mark because of the intensity in which it was said. If I tell you, come here, that is a command. So that will also end with a exclamation mark. If I tell you, drink water, drink some water, have some water, that is a request that will end with a full stop. Take the medicine, that will also end with a full stop. But remember, the most distinguishing factor of imperative sentences is that they always begin with a verb. The last category of sentences is the exclamative sentences, just from the word exclaim. What do you think exclamative sentences are? So we use them when we are expressing strong feelings, strong emotions like fear, anger, surprise, excitement, disappointment, sorrow, pity. If you say, what a pity. When you say, you are so frustrating, you see the different emotions. Those are what we call exclamative sentences. So we can look at a few examples that are expressing these different emotions. For example, if you want to express sorrow, you can say, how sad it is. What a terrible feeling. How unlucky she is. So those are examples of sentences that are showing sorrow. Remember, exclamative sentences will end with an exclamation mark. If maybe somebody has wronged you and you're angry and you say, I am so disappointed in you, you're expressing anger. Or how untidy this house looks. What careless talk this is. And lastly, we have disappointment. What a shame that was. I am very disappointed in you. Those are some sentences that show disappointment. So you can attempt to construct sentences in those three different categories. You can even do it maybe with your desk mate, especially for the exclamative sentences, and you ask them, what emotion are you trying to express? That will help you with understanding. So that's it for declarative sentences, imperative sentences, and exclamative sentences. I hope you have understood and you are now able to construct sentences in any of those three categories. And you're also able to punctuate the sentence correctly depending on what category it is. Remember, we have said for something like exclamative sentences, they end with an exclamation mark. For imperative sentences, depending on what message they are trying to pass, they can end with a full stop or an exclamation mark. We have said declarative sentences are statements, so those ones end with a full stop. So for further practice, you can have a look at the quiz. Identify if the sentences below are either declarative, imperative, or exclamative sentences and punctuate them appropriately. So you will read a sentence like the first one, come here. Before you even start punctuating, first identify what sentence is this. Is it exclamative, declarative, imperative? So come here is an imperative because it starts with a verb. So you identify, okay, this is an imperative sentence, and then is it a request? Is it a command? Come here is a command, so it's going to end with an exclamation mark. So you have identified it is an imperative sentence, and then you punctuate it. It ends with an exclamation mark. So you can attempt to do the rest. Thank you for tuning in, and see you in the next session.